successful Nigeria is powered by the Covenant Nation.
Those of us who are following, we know who we have not heard, right? We know who we're expecting to hear. Fantastic. So let me just bring up our next speaker, who is Audrey Joe-Ezigbo. She's the Deputy Managing Director of Falcon Corporation Limited, a company which she co-founded with her husband in 1994. Falcon Corporation Limited is the leading wholly indigenous mainstream and downstream energy, gas distribution and trading company. An accomplished professional, Audrey holds several master's degrees in finance, marketing and business administration. She's a transformational coach and an exceptional public speaker. Trust me, you would attest to this when she's done. Please welcome with a warm applause, Audrey Joe-Ezigbo.
Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon to you. As always, my utmost respect to Pastors Podju and Toyi Oyemade. So we're speaking today about innovating our way into the future. And I would just like to share some thoughts from today's session. All right, so we always start from the perspective of the problems. And why is this necessary? It is because, as has been said repeatedly, the whole world is changing. And that pace of change is rapid. So as I put it, there are evolutions, there are convolutions, there are undulations, there are so many moving parts that we have to grapple with on a daily, consistent basis. And what this means is that the word normal has actually ceased to exist, or at best exists for just a few minutes, seconds, hours, or perhaps days. So it's an evolution of seasons. And what this means, therefore, is that when we think about ourselves as entrepreneurs, we cannot afford to be static in any way. It's really hard now to do a lot of long-range planning, but at the end of the day, we still must be adaptable and connected enough to what is going on as far as our businesses are concerned. And the truth is that, as used to be said, it has become more so true than ever before, that if you're not innovative as an entrepreneur, you actually risk just going out of business. Now, if this is true for your particular business and your particular industry, I promise you that it's also true from both the national and the subnational level. And why is this? It's because of the paradoxes, especially as Nigerians. What an amazing nation we are. We are a nation of the craziest forms of paradoxes ever, isn't it? I mean, we're a country that we are as resource rich as we are deficient in the optimization of those same resources. We're a nation that is blessed with gas, with water, with sunlight, things that we can use to generate electricity and power for the entire nation, and indeed export it. At the same time, oh wow, we will not be surprised if they took light right now, would we? Yeah. So we're a nation that is as richly endowed with a huge, gifted, entrepreneurial, vibrant population, as we're also burdened by the dearth of available opportunities for those, that vigor to be channeled into profitable expressions of enterprise. So whether we like it or not, we always find ourselves starting the conversations with Nigeria around problems, around the paradoxes. And this is not hard to imagine. Because by whatever metric you choose to look at the nation, I mean, whether we're talking about GDP growth rates, whether we're talking about inflation, whether we're talking about youth unemployment, whether we're talking about security from whatever dimensions, exchange rates, the level of manufacturing, the deindustrialization that we've seen happening in this country over years. The truth is that everywhere we look, we see that we are in a precarious position. And quite frankly, the next set of steps that we'll take as a nation could either reposition us back to our glory or tip us further into an edge. Because you see, there is a future that is coming, whether we want it or not. So we've all talked this day, about the level of unemployment. We talked about 41%, thereabouts. Here's the thing. When we talk about India and China, there is one statistic that was not put out today, and that's the fact that Nigeria is actually poised to become one of the most populous nations, right up there with them. And the question then becomes, what happens to us when that happens? Because it's difficult enough as we are now. We are in a country where the GDP growth rate is lower than the population growth rate. That should tell us that something interesting is going on. And here's the thing. I was at an energy conference recently, and we're talking about the fact that, we keep looking at the international world to solve our power problems. And I remember one speaker said something. He said, let me tell you, nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. And this resonates with me because I truly believe that the greatest solutions that we're going to have to the problems that we face, they're going to come from within us. And that brings me then to the issue of posture. That as entrepreneurs, we want to ask ourselves, when we dimension and stare in the face the many, many challenges that are in our environment, what happens? Can we afford to be overwhelmed? I say no, actually. I say no. I think that, as has been said repeatedly, when we hear the problems and the challenges, we begin to look for the opportunities where we can plug the gaps. And that's the message I want to bring today. That first and foremost, private sector must necessarily be staring those challenges in the face and thinking, what kind of adaptations and innovations do I need to be part of to reset and recatalyze this nation? Because it's very possible. So it's very clear to me that as far as the national developmental agenda of Nigeria is concerned, entrepreneurs, we have more than ever before a very key role to play. And we've done well, so let me first celebrate that. I applaud every single entrepreneur in the hall who has been a big part of contributing to the GDP of this country. Because when we look at the GDP of Nigeria, that formal and informal sector, you and I, we have done very well. But guys, guess what? There is still so much work left to be done. And it is from that perspective that I say this very carefully, because I'm also an entrepreneur myself, that in a sense, much as we've done well, we have actually over-sensationalized entrepreneurship. We have put this kind of guilt upon people that if you don't have one kind of private side hustle, then something is wrong with you. I ask repeatedly, if everyone will be an entrepreneur, I beg, who is going to work for us? And I'm going to come to that. About 11 years ago, one young lady, she came to me, I just finished talking at one business event, and she said, oh my gosh, ma'am, you're such an enigma. You're the woman I want to become. I was very honored. I was also very unconfused, if that is a word. And why do I say that? Because I recognize that if there is a woman called Audrey Joe-Ezigbo that someone else considers an enigma, it is because on my journey, I have ridden on the backs of those that have gone ahead. It is because there are people who are partnering with me. There are people who are placing their goodwill, their resources on my behalf. There are people who are praying me through. There are people who are taking the thing that I call my vision and running with it. And that brings me to this issue. That as entrepreneurs, when we celebrate the things we've achieved, with all due respect, God has helped me to do well with my business, my husband and I. But guess what? We are not all that by ourselves, are we? And it's important, which is why I really love the fact that today's session is not just about entrepreneurs, but about entrepreneurs. Because you see, this is about partnerships. This is about partnerships. That we are who we are, we've achieved the things we've achieved because there have been some people that have chosen to oil the wheels of our organization. There are some people that have committed to manning our gates, so to speak, to upholding the vision, even though it might not be theirs, as we've heard. It's just on the pathway to their own. And that's why I love entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, those ones that they don't think job title, all they're thinking is, let's get this done. What do we need to tweak? What do we need to change? Madam, if you are slow, let me tell you what to do. Entrepreneurs are people that can sometimes, if we the entrepreneurs will be honest, they can embarrass us with their resourcefulness. Sometimes they challenge you into thinking, is this my business or... Yeah. Some of them even have the language of I, my. I remember someone who worked for me, she was like, madam, they must pay me my money. And I'll be like, sorry. But I knew where she was coming from. So we have entrepreneurs who, if you are not careful, they can make you, the entrepreneur, feel very insecure. And I think perhaps that's sometimes the problem that we face. So I thought that it was good to just stop and say, you know what, guys, I see you. And I loved it when Tara said that you're powerful people, because I actually wrote that. I said, listen, you are truly powerful and valuable people. So if you're an entrepreneur in the room, please celebrate yourself. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But in the spirit of partnerships, because the Nigeria problem is our problem collectively, whether you are intra or intra, is that we're going to need to come to the place of these powerful and profitable partnerships. While we are busy chasing our individual visions, there is a convergence that comes from the perspective of the Nigeria challenge. And I hope that that is clear in the room today. So in the spirit of our topic today, I thought to look at innovations. And not just innovations by entrepreneurs, but I actually took time to go and do a search around innovations that were done by intrapreneurs. And I found some really interesting things I didn't know. I mean, first of all, can we just settle that we're living in innovation? And there's some things right from the bed you sleep on, the toothbrush you use, things you don't even wake up every day and think, I wonder who made this toothbrush. No, you don't think about those things. They're just making our lives better. But I thought, okay, for those that work for people, and I found out that things like Gmail, Google News, the Apple iPod, Microsoft Surface, the Xbox, the Sony PlayStation, the Walkman, which used to be a thing, Amazon Prime, that is like some of us can't do without it. These were things created by people working for other people. But why is it important to me? Because the ripple effect is global, well beyond themselves. And I think this aligns very much with everything that has been said, that if you wear the right hat, you are actually empowering much more than yourself. Therefore, as I said earlier, because no one is coming to save us, if we are paying attention to trying to create ripples of value beyond ourselves to solve our national problems, then we have to look at the businesses that we run as well as that we work for as platforms where those solutions will be created. And if we see that, then certainly we can do bigger things. So entrepreneurs, first let me say this. We want to solve problems, we want to do great things. We want our names in the light. But our names in the light must be the smallest part of our agenda when we're thinking about what to do. And guess what? This is exactly the same message to every entrepreneur. Don't be too focused on your name in the light. Focus on the things that we need to restore glory. So again, people, when we talk about innovation, people are always central to it. Whether it is the people we try to cultivate and groom to create those innovations, or the people who are going to benefit from it, in this case, the Nigerian people. So innovation is, in the place of this partnership, as I said, is profitable. We begin to think about the things that we can do to make life better for everyone. And when I say everyone, it could be that just within your organization, you're thinking, how can I make this place better? So that the business is better, so that my colleagues were working in a better place. And that means we must be thinking 360 around every single dimension of innovation. So we can be thinking about the product innovation itself, where we want to create new products or improve the functionality of existing ones. Tara touched on that as well. We may be thinking about processes. Everything you complain about within your organization from a process point of view, everything your customer complains about on the other end, needs you to sit down and wear a cap for how can I tweak this? It can be something where we're thinking about the process, the manufacturing, or the entire organization. Can we even change how we do business? Who said it must be like this? Maybe we're the ones that can recreate the work styles of our industry. Now, why is this important? I think that when we begin to dimension what we do, whether as the business owners or the people working in them, and we're thinking more all about creating value for the people within and outside of our organizations, what happens is that we begin to see more opportunities where we can service people, where we can make life better, more enjoyable for the people that are around us. So let's think about that. It's always about people. Let's not miss it. I want us to look at a couple of images, and I will not say anything for a few seconds. Please look carefully. And no, the tech people didn't confuse my presentation. I know I'm in oil and gas, and yes, it is plantain. Do we see? How about this one? I want to thank 1Q Food Platter for these images. That one that says, I love dodo, that's mine. I love that. I saw something on WhatsApp once where somebody said, I'm very sure that the person who first thought to fry plantain made it to heaven. I totally agree. But guess what? The reason that I've put this here, I could have come talking about energy, it's my space, about gas, it's my space, power and all that. But I really wanted to have a conversation around perspective. Around perspective. I did not put pictures of food to in any way trivialize the things we're talking about today. What I'm actually trying to do is to bring it down to such a level that every single one of us can find ourselves in the conversation. Because when we talk about innovation, it's so easy for us to begin to think about the big things. Flutterwave, fantastic. Andela, Sony Walkman, or, whatever the things, we have the big things. The ability to even project multiple screens, the devices we carry, it's so easy for us to be thinking about that. But it seems to me that from a perspective point of view, if we would understand that innovating our way through the future, innovations, generally speaking, have to do with both the big and the small, then we can all situate ourselves in that. And I'm going to explain why those pictures were relevant. So it struck me that if we can get away from this construct where we think innovation is really one big wow thing that is shiny and bold all the time, that if we get out of that, or if we don't get out of that, I should say, we're going to miss the many, many small but tweakable, easily tweakable expressions of value that we can create within and outside of our organizations. Things which then have the potential, as they gain momentum, to radically transform our environment. And I will explain what that means. So, two things can happen. One, if we see that innovation is about big, is about small, is about product, service, process, everything, just how can I do the next thing better? Not necessarily only about creating that new thing. Then we can begin to see incremental change. And then it's easier for us, especially entrepreneurs, to assign rewards, recognition, and value because it doesn't shake us in any way. We know something new is always going to be coming out. And then that brings me to the conversation about our projections. This is the conversation about the future. That if we recognize that innovation is about big and small and everybody needs to come in partnership, then it's about the future. And this for me is the conversation about intentionality. So the question I have is, what is the future that you see? If you had to create an avatar for your future, what does it look like? Let me bring it into context in my own industry. We can see clearly, as has been said, we have 50% of the population of Nigeria is below the age of 17. Actually, a more dire statistic is that 70% of the population is below 25. What this tells me is that there's going to be need for energy. Energy that can drive and power industries and the various ventures at different levels so that those burgeoning youths can find productive expressions for their talents and their energies. This tells me already that I must be in the space of research, of understanding the direction of growth from a power point of view, from an industrialization point of view. That actually it creates opportunities for me even to think about beyond supplying gas. Maybe I can even get into the end user side and begin to build factories that will use gas. Not because I want to do one more business, because those factories will employ Nigerian youths. Can you see it? Now, in case some of you are still wondering, but madam, you said you're going to talk about plantain. Let me explain why those pictures were there. Dubai in 2022, according to their World Travel and Trade Council, Dubai earned $29.4 billion from tourism. Tourism, $29.8 billion, multiplied by 745 and tell me the size in the Nigerian context. We as Nigerians know that we have a country with the most phenomenal tourism sites, potentially phenomenal, if we would map them out properly. It's been a conversation over decades for Nigeria to build its tourism sector. I want you to imagine with me that we're able to create this future where the world is coming to us because there are some beautiful tourist attractions. I hope you understand that we need to up our game too, because it now becomes a question of global competitiveness. It now means that your ordinary boli can't just be that thing you're roasting at the roadside, that you need to prepare the gourmet version that can command dollars. That is the point I was making. Because it will be so easy for somebody who is running some little business here to be thinking, you know, let them be innovating. How can Flutterwave be on the conversation? Me, that I'm just managing this, my small business, will be talking about innovation. This will be so easy. But if you can see that future, it tells you that from the perspective of globalization and opportunities, if you can just come up higher, the potentials are enormous. So as we think about this future, therefore, and as I said, what are you seeing? This future means we're forward-looking. We're not constrained. We're not limited by, we're thinking about what can be more efficient? What can I do better? Because I am competing not with myself, but I'm competing with the globe. It means that we're not even allowing ourselves to be constrained in that thinking also. That the challenges we face around us don't become the thing that don't allow us to see the possibilities that do exist. Thinking about the future, of course, means that we're thinking about the end user. What is going to happen out there? These statistics we hear about demographics, what does it mean? What does it mean? What kind of capacity do we need to build to address the demographic changes that are happening? How can I plug myself in there? When we're thinking about the future, it goes, and I hope you notice that I'm using the acronym for future, right? That is the technology. It has been said enough here that the world is being driven by technology. All we're hearing is AI, blockchain, and so on and so forth. Even in your own business, there are things that you can do. Within my company, we have a software that is called Assidious. And it started as a customer management portal, but is now bigger than that. And guess what? It was created by one of my entrepreneurs. And it was functional enough and efficient enough to allow us to put away our initial thought of bringing in some foreign ERP. We're working with something that was built by one of us. There's so much potential when you think about technology. So when you think about the opportunities and the level of connectedness, what is happening in the environment, how do you situate your business in it? Even if it's not there today, what is that pathway and how do you begin to take position? Of course, we're talking about our resources. I believe that in the context of the innovating to the future, I don't want us to be innovating for the sake of developing somebody else's land. Excuse me. As we're thinking about where we need to go as a nation, I want every entrepreneur in the room to challenge yourselves to think, what kind of import substitution, what kind of resources that are built here locally can I use to change and tweak something in my business so that it is domestic capacity that we're building? Even if you're in the food business, we have a local company, maybe several, that are making spices. I want you to go into your store and look at how many foreign brands are there. Toss them. Go and buy our indigenous products. That's building capacity all the way back to the farm. In the same way, of course, capacity doesn't come in the air. So we must be thinking about research, about developments, about learning. Platforms like this. Somebody else talked about building academies, investing in interns. All it is about us creating this tidal wave of capacity that can then position us for that future we're looking at. And of course, because it is important, we must be thinking environmental sustainability. We see the challenges that have happened in the developed world, such that now we're talking energy transition and this and that. As we're beginning to innovate, we cannot be destructive in the process. So when you think about the changes in your business, please think about them from that sustainable point of view. How can I reduce emissions? How can I be more socially responsible? What can I reuse? What can I recycle? All those things, they come into this place of the basket of the kinds of innovation that we as entrepreneurs must be thinking about to move this nation forward. And lastly, because my time is fast spent, I want to land on the place of asking all of us to make a pact. A fresh pact with our country, a fresh pact with our employers, with our organizations, with the society, with our fellow man, and with God indeed. And what is this? It is that as we think about this future that we desire, right? Given the context we are starting from, there is need for very radical type of thinking. Otherwise, we will get ourselves locked into the mire of grumbling and complaining and not moving ahead with the kind of energy and dexterity that is called for. What this means, therefore, is that at the end of today, having listened to all the phenomenal speakers you've listened to, taken the points you've taken, you need to go back into your business, into your job, and begin to think. Ask yourself many questions. What needs to shift? What is going to be different because I was at the platform this year? What kind of value can I bring to the society that exists and is evolving? How can I facilitate that culture of entrepreneurship, intrapreneurship? You know what? For those of us who run businesses, let me say this. You want to be careful to walk away from this sense that because you own the business, you are the only one that can be crowned king. You must allow your people to own the win. It was said earlier that people can find that alignment between the corporate vision and your own as long as they can see that they are valued. So let's be very careful to, allow our entrepreneurs to shine. They're the ones who are going to help us to do the bigger things. And for entrepreneurs, we can't say it enough. Please take where you work as training ground. The people that leave paid employment and end up building successful businesses are the people who gave it their all when they were working for someone else. Because I can promise you that God understands something. You cannot come and work for me and give me 20%, then when you start this your fantastic business, you'll find who will give you 100%. It doesn't work like that. I want us to try to imagine something, and I'm going to leave you with these three things. So first of all, I have said this, that for us to be thinking, innovating into the future, regardless of what industry or sector you are in, you must have some kind of an avatar. And if you are tracking the avatar, you will also be seeing the evolutions, and you keep adapting. If you're anything else as an entrepreneur is adaptable, you must be. That's one. Secondly, I've said that you must pursue innovations with a very high level of intentionality at every level and scale. Don't look only to the big things. And I want us to imagine an environment that is charged with such a sense of ownership, a self-driven focus, and a continuous mindset of continuous improvement. Just imagine that everybody is moving around thinking, how can I do this better? How can I make this better? When you get to the work, the energy is around, hey guys, what do we need to do? When you go into some kind of, gathering anywhere, your first thought is, what are they doing well, and then what can we do better? Imagine that culture of excellence pervading the entire country, not just on our enterprises, the entire country. Can you see the tidal wave of positive transformational change that can happen? And lastly, I want to submit again, because it is really key, and I think is the biggest message for the platform this year, that everything we desire, this future, is going to be underpinned by the powerful, very powerful and valuable partnerships that will exist and must exist between entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. Because when the problems come, they don't differentiate. I've never seen the problem that first asks you if you work for somebody or you own the business. I want us to just walk away with this. A commitment, this is the pact, as I wrap up, or as I end. That whatever I need to do to engender and to advance powerful partnerships that are in singular pursuit of progress from both a national prosperity and posterity point of view, I commit to doing it. A lot of scriptures have been thrown out. Fantastic. A lot of injunctions have been given. I want to add just one. When they talk about future, we all think technology, and that's great. And AI, we've talked about it. I leave you with this, that as we're thinking, innovating into the future, there is one AI you must not miss. So tap into the alpha intelligence. Thank you.